Hello everyone, I'm Yazan Ibrahim, or as some of you might know me, Yazan Abu Ghosh. Today we're going to dive into a fascinating and essential topic from Chapter 5, Protection of Information Assets, Part A, Information Asset Security and Control 5.4, Identity and Access Management. If you are a seasoned auditor, or just curious to understand how information systems into business environments, you've come to the right place. Let's begin. Introduction: Building a Secure Digital Foundation. In today's interconnected world, information security forms the backbone of organizational operations. At its heart is identity and access management, IAM, a vital component that protects valuable digital resources from unauthorized access while enabling legitimate users to perform their roles efficiently and securely. To grasp the importance of IAM, we must explore its principles, implementation methods, logical and physical access controls, and the ever-growing complexities of external collaborations and system vulnerabilities. This comprehensive narrative will delve deep into the subtopics of access control, authentication mechanisms, secure practices, and the evolving threats organizations face. By the end, we'll understand not just what IAM is, but why meticulous attention to its processes is mission critical for safeguarding the digital landscape. Identification and authentication, INA, the first line of defense. Imagine IAM as the security gate of a fortress. Before anyone crosses the threshold, the system demands to know who are you, identification, and prove it, authentication. Without this critical verification, an organization cannot prevent unauthorized entities from walking straight in or hold legitimate users accountable for their actions. What is identification and authentication? Identification is the process of uniquely recognizing users, for example, your username or ID. Authentication enforces proof of that claim, ensuring the person logging in is truly the one authorized, for example, passwords, PINs, biometrics. Together, I and A not only control access, but also set the stage for tracking system activity and preventing jeopardized accountability in cases of fraud or breaches. But what if this gate is weak? Common vulnerabilities like overly simplistic passwords, shared credentials, or lack of proper encryption can open gateways to attackers. This is why organizations must implement robust authentication techniques, which may include 1. Something you know, a password, PIN, or response to a security question. 2. Something you have, a token, smart card, or a key fob. 3. Something you are, biometrics such as fingerprint, face, or iris recognition. For added security, multi-factor authentication, MFA, employs a combination of these, making it exponentially harder for malicious actors to breach systems. Logical and physical system access controls. When visualizing access control, think of it as multiple distinct layers of protection enriching the overall security of a resource. Logical access controls. These controls govern how systems determine who can perform specific actions, for example, reading data, executing commands, modifying files. If logical controls are weak or misconfigured, attackers can bypass authentication processes to tamper with sensitive assets. Key layers include 1. Networks, securing infrastructure access points like routers, firewalls, and VPNs. 2. Platforms, operating systems, regulating entry into systems that host applications or business data. 3. Databases, managing authorization over records, schemas, and queries. 4. Applications, fine-tuning access down to individual fields or features within an app to enforce granular control. For example, consider an organization with a shared calendar platform. While the display of meeting schedules may be accessible to everyone, only system administrators can modify or configure the application. If these roles aren't distinctly set, non-privileged users could inadvertently or maliciously disrupt operations. Physical access controls. Each logical protection must coexist with physical security measures. Locking down server rooms with badges, biometrics, security guards, and surveillance systems is as critical as strengthening firewalls. Furthermore, controls should reflect role-based access policies, ensuring that no one gains entry, whether physically or logically, without explicit business justification. The cornerstone here is least privilege, to grant users only the minimum access necessary for their job functions. Access permission and authorization. Access permission governs precisely what users can do within a system. This process involves stringent documentation to define who can access what based on business justifications, ensure privileges align with authorization matrices, track activities to ensure accountability and traceability. For instance, imagine a junior employee in a retail organization inadvertently granted the ability to delete entire customer databases. Providing access beyond job necessity increases the risk of both accidental misuse and deliberate compromise. Regular access reviews, especially following organizational changes such as employee promotions, transfers, or terminations, are critical for preventing privilege creep, wherein users accumulate unnecessary permissions over time. Neglecting to revoke access for ex-employees, contract workers, or third-party vendors also presents significant exposure risks. Addressing mandatory and discretionary access controls, MAC versus DAC, IAM implementations often integrate mandatory access controls, MAC, and discretionary access controls, DAC, to tailor access restrictions. MAC adopts strict, non-negotiable policy enforcements, granting permissions based on security labels rather than user discretion. For example, a top-secret file can only be accessed by users cleared for classified materials. DAC provides data owners the ability to allocate access rights freely, such as granting specific individuals permission to read or edit a document. The balance between MAC and DAC depends on organizational priorities, where highly sensitive operations typically favor MAC, while discretionary controls allow more flexibility for collaborative environments. Managing security with external parties. With increased collaboration between organizations, vendors, and customers, external parties often require access to internal systems. While this strengthens partnerships, it also introduces new vulnerabilities. To mitigate these risks, organizations must 1. Perform exhaustive risk assessments before granting access. 2. Formalize the collaboration in contracts or third-party agreements, stipulating everything from access levels to security protocols, such as data encryption or workflows for incident handling. 3. Regularly audit external activity for compliance. For example, a vendor requiring restricted database access should only gain logical permissions for the exact task contracted, e.g., analytics, without exposure to sensitive personal data beyond scope. Employing non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, and encrypting connections can enhance protection. Ensuring authentication and password hygiene. Passwords remain a fundamental part of authentication. Yet poorly implemented password policies, like reusing identical credentials for multiple systems or requiring simplistic passwords, leave organizations vulnerable. Best practices include enforcing minimum password complexity, for example, combining lowercase, uppercase numbers and symbols, requiring regular changes, for example, every 90 days for standard users and every 30 days for privileged accounts, preventing reuse of recently expired passwords via password history logs, educating users to avoid common mistakes, like writing static passwords on sticky notes or opting for predictable choices like password 123. Token-based authentication or one-time passwords further enhance this layer, while biometric techniques provide even stronger barriers. Automation and IAM systems for continuous security. IAM systems have evolved to enforce policies proactively, monitor access patterns, and generate reports for swift decision-making. Using access control software, IT teams can automate provisioning or deprovisioning of accounts to minimize human error. Implement conditional access policies, such as restricting login attempts from high-risk geographies. Log and review suspicious activities in real time, further integrating anomaly detection tools to flag unusual behavior. For example, an accountant accessing HR tools at midnight. These tools, when complemented by strict human oversight, bolster the organization's defense mechanisms. Conclusion: safeguarding the future. In the realm of information security, complacency isn't an option. As the digital landscape grows ever more complex, the principles and practices of identity and access management serve as the sturdy scaffolding organizations need to protect themselves. From logical access controls to external collaboration management, ensuring robust IAM implementation is no longer optional. The risks are too great and the stakes too high. By adhering to principles of least privilege, regular review practices, and secure authentication protocols, organizations not only protect themselves, but also instill trust among stakeholders, customers, and employees. The fortress of IAM isn't just a defense, it's a promise of resilience in a rapidly evolving digital world. Biometric authentication, the human touch in security. Imagine this. Each human being is walking around with a key to their digital spaces, a key that requires no memory, no combination, and no physical object to lose. This key is you. Biometric access controls capitalize on what makes you uniquely you, from the micro patterns of your iris to the subtle dynamics of your handwritten signature. Biometrics verify identity based on physical or behavioral attributes. Think about the fingerprint scanner on your phone. You place your finger on the device. The scanner reads patterns of ridges and bifurcations that are uniquely yours. But here's the secret most people don't realize. It doesn't save an image of your fingerprint. Instead, it creates a mathematical code, a unique template derived from your fingerprint features, and it uses this for comparison each time you unlock your device. This process introduces the foundation of biometric systems: enrollment, storage, and comparison. Biometric technologies are remarkable, but they don't come without challenges. Age, injuries, voice changes, or even subtle differences in handwriting over time can alter some of your biometric data. For example, a scar on your fingertip might affect recognition, and so can background noise during voice authentication. This explains why no biometric system is perfect. Metrics like false rejection rates, FRR, and false acceptance rates, FR, help systems fine-tune their performance. Imagine two dials. One adjusts how many false rejections occur, the other adjusts how many false acceptances slip through. Getting these to balance is like walking a tightrope, and the point where errors from both sides collide evenly is what experts call the equal error rate, EER. Biometric methods span across an impressive spectrum of technologies. For instance, an iris scanner captures the intricate color patterns of your eye with incredible precision. Over 400 features of the iris are analyzed to authenticate identity. The advantage? No physical contact with the device is needed. But the cost? Well, these systems can push budget limits due to the high storage requirements for their detailed templates. Retinal scans dig even deeper, analyzing capillary patterns inside the eye. While they boast unparalleled reliability with the lowest false acceptance rates in biometrics today, they require users to place the scanning device very close to their eye. This intimacy with the device sometimes deters user acceptance. In comparison, palm and hand geometry scanners remain more socially accepted. These devices analyze aspects like your palm's ridges and valleys, or the dimensions of your hand placed onto a guided surface. But they're not flawless. Hand injuries or minor anomalies in geometry can render them inconsistent. Fingerprint scanners are everywhere, their popularity driven by affordability and portability. But consider this: dirt, oils, or moisture on your hand can distort the scan. On the other hand, facial recognition, while considered natural and intuitive, lacks uniqueness. Two people with similar facial features can trick the system. Behavioral traits also enter the biometric arena. Ever thought about the way you sign your name? Beyond the loops and angles on paper, signature-based authentication captures the speed, stroke pressure, and rhythm of your pen. Similarly, your voice isn't just about what you say during authentication, but how you say it. The pitch, dynamics, and waveform of your speech are analyzed. But remember, our hypothetical hackers, what happens if your voice is recorded and played back? That's just one of the hurdles voice recognition needs to overcome. As these technologies expand, managing the vast amounts of biometric data becomes its own challenge. From the initial moment of enrollment, every piece of data, be it geometric templates, encrypted packets, or even the hardware capturing it, must be secured. Why? Because misuse of such intricate personal data could unravel trust completely. Single sign-on, simplicity meets security. Now picture this scenario. You're juggling 5 meetings, trying to open 10 different apps, each with its own login credentials. As the frustration builds, you wonder, isn't there a simpler way? Enter single sign-on, SSO, the digital master key that unifies access across platforms with a single verified login. At its core, SSO simplifies how we access various systems. Instead of managing countless usernames and passwords for each system, it all begins with a primary domain, the system where you first log in. From here, your credentials are seamlessly extended to secondary domains across applications, databases, and platforms. The result? Fewer passwords to remember, less time wasted on forgotten credentials, and fewer security risks like sticky notes under keyboards harboring sensitive information. But even SSO has its complexities. Think of the wildly diverse digital environments it must integrate with: mainframes, cloud platforms, diverse operating systems, and each may have its own quirks in managing access or credentialing data. To bridge these differences, administrators rely on protocols like Kerberos, a trusted intermediary that verifies identities for distributed computing environments. SAML, Security Assertion Markup Language, extends this concept to web browsers, ensuring users can access various websites or services without hassle. Despite the benefits, no system is without weaknesses. Centralized access points mean that a single breach could spell trouble for multiple systems simultaneously. This is why multi-layered security measures like biometrics, yes, biometrics again, often reinforce SSO systems. Authorization and access control, the rules of the game. But logging in is only the start of the story. Once inside the system, the bigger question arises, what can you do here? This is where authorization steps in. Access rules work like invisible laws, dictating who can view, modify, delete, or even run certain files, databases, or applications. Take, for example, a file containing sensitive financial records. A user with read-only permissions can simply view it, while another with write permissions can edit or even erase those records. All of this is managed through access control lists, ACLs, essentially detailed registries of user permissions. Some ACLs are basic, offering broad classifications like owner or general user. Others drill down to granular rules where, for example, a senior accountant gets full access to salary data, while junior staff are restricted to viewing aggregated reports only. The pitfall? When users change roles or leave an organization, their access rights are often inadequately updated. Imagine a former project team member retaining control of confidential design files even after transferring to another department. Such lapses highlight how important it is for administrators to enforce policies such as the principle of least privilege, where users only get the minimum access needed for their responsibilities. Protecting data, the lifeblood of modern enterprise. At the most fundamental level, data is the pulse of any enterprise. But as information volumes grow, so do risks to its security. Over time, this has made concepts like data leak prevention, DLP, invaluable. DLP combines technologies for monitoring, logging, and defending data in three states: data at rest, data in motion, and data actively being used. For instance, imagine an employee unknowingly emailing sensitive customer reports to an unapproved recipient. With DLP, this behavior gets flagged in real time, and the email could even be blocked. At times, DLP systems review encrypted traffic, scanning for policy violations while ensuring private details stay confidential. Still, challenges persist. Encrypted files present roadblocks when the system lacks the keys needed for decryption. Similarly, scanned images and graphic files, where content isn't readable through typical data scans, can bypass the system altogether. Organizations walk a fine line between creating policies that safeguard data and keeping workflows efficient. For example, imagine flagging false positives where routine processes are repeatedly interrupted. A closing look, crafting a safer digital tomorrow. Whether it's biometric authentication, single sign-on, authorization structures, or DLP solutions, each serves as a cog in the vast machine of cybersecurity. But remember, these systems are built around one critical reality: trust. Trust in the foundations they are built on, and trust that the humans using them understand their importance. With evolving technologies and careful management, businesses and individuals alike step closer to securing a digitally resilient future. Thank you for watching, and as always, continue learning. Stay curious, and we'll see you next video.